We're joined now by Spencer O'Leary. He's the CEO of ActiveOps North America. And what we're going to talk about today is something that has been on the minds of many Americans in this transitional world in which we find ourselves. Some are calling it the post-pandemic world. But in any case, now that some COVID numbers in various countries are starting to get under control, vaccination rates are up, a lot of people who were forced to hunker down and shelter in place, stay in quarantine, for example, in their homes during COVID and work from home, are now kind of reevaluating their work situation. And many people are deciding, hey, I'm not going to go back to work. I don't like my old situation. I think I can find a new situation. And this is kind of a sea change we're seeing right now, isn't it?
I think it is, Linda. And I think we're going to see over the next maybe 6 to 24 months a real change in the criteria that people use to evaluate their need to go back to work. Both those who decide not to work, people have had different priorities through the pandemic. They want to stay at home, look after their children, look after their aging relatives. And I think there's those now who do want to go back to work, but they want to work in a different format. They want to work from home. They maybe want to work in a hybrid model of being in the office and been at home. And the days when we all went to drive downtown between 9 and 5 and work in an office, I think they just might be gone.
A lot of these work from home situations have made people feel as if they are more productive because they do cut that commute out of their workday. I know that myself and many of my colleagues have felt that we are actually working a lot more rather than less because of a lot of the work from home scenarios in which we find ourselves. In broadcasting, only a certain number of people can be in the studio at any one time. So that's caused us to sort of restructure what work looks like. And a lot of companies had to do that too.
They have. And one of the challenges, so I'm from ActiveOps, and one of the challenges we help businesses with is thinking about a round set of metrics that make a good performing team. And production or productivity is certainly one of those metrics. How much work do we output for the amount of hours that we spend doing it? But there's a number of other metrics that make great performing teams, and they're the ones that we've seen decrease and deplete through the fact that people work from home. So things like employee well-being, workplace stress, well-being's gone down, workplace stress has gone up, and they have a real cost on business, because if we get those, if the metrics prove we're getting those things wrong, then sickness, attrition are on the increase, creativity, innovation is on the decrease, and just our ability as an organization to have a group of individuals who are passionate about working together, they build and bond friendships, they can overcome resistance and challenge in the workplace. All of those things start to decrease when we work from home in a subtle environment. So whilst productivity's up, I do worry about the long-term effects of employee well-being, increased workplace stress, the reduction in creativity and innovation. What will they hold in terms of sort of long-term group team performance as we go through the next 12 to 24 months?
We have some Labor Department numbers that showed just in the month of April, the number of workers leaving their jobs was at 2.7%. That's a jump from a year earlier, which was 1.6%. And a lot of people who have spent COVID kind of reevaluating their lives are deciding, maybe I shouldn't go back. Maybe I should hold out for something better. What does this do for employers who are trying to bring people back to the workplace?
I think we've got a fascinating period coming up. I'm reading reports, the Wall Street Journal today stating the statistics you just mentioned. There was a Microsoft survey last week saying that 30% of people who were interviewed would quit their jobs if their employer didn't allow them to work in a more flexible environment. So we've got those who just don't want to go back to work. It's probably the lower end of the earning spectrum, where people have realized that their net take home really wasn't worth the commute cost, the clothes cost to wear a suit to work, the cost that they had to provide childcare and older person care and dog care. And if you take all of those things out of the equation, I'm no worse off by being at home, and I can have a more enjoyable lifestyle. I think there's also those who have decided that they would take a pay cut. Again, there was a survey out a week or two ago that said, I think it was 70% of people interviewed would take a $30,000 pay cut rather than go back to the office. Astounding figures of people who have decided that the flexibility of working from home or the flexibility of not working and just being at home is worth far more than just the balance of their bank account. So I think that's going to drive a real behavior in people as we go through the next 12, 18, 24 months. And I think there's a real need on employers to think about how they get this right. How do they provide an environment where people can enjoy the freedom and flexibility of working from home whilst complementing that freedom with the collaboration and the congregation of coming together in the office so that they can drive the creativity and innovation that business need today. That sounds like an impossible balance. I'm sure we can get there, but we need to think differently. 2019 was hard. 2020 was harder when we started working from home. We now seem to be approaching this hybrid working model where some people will work from the office and from home on different days of the week or different weeks of the month. And that's a real challenge for business to make sure that we're managing that environment appropriately and making sure we get this balance between performance and well-being and that we get it right.
So in summary, I think what we could honestly say is that the pandemic has changed how we envision and how we work in America. And those changes may be, in many cases, forevermore.
I think forevermore. And I think interesting how we start to accommodate and experience this as consumers. So we're seeing businesses who outsource to India and the Philippines, both locations, both geographies, still really struggling with COVID, really struggling with any ability to work from home in a multi-generation household. A lot of that work is coming back on US soil. So suddenly we've got a labor market that is in high demand. It's in short supply. The strength seems to be with the employee, not the employer. It's going to be an interesting path as we go forward. It's certainly one that we need to keep an eye on.
So employees and employers have to hold on to their hat because the workplace is changing. Spencer O'Leary, the CEO of ActiveOps North America, talking about going back to work or not going back to work. Thank you so much for joining us here on First Light.
Thank you, Linda.